Before you were born, your essence used to be at home at a place as old as time. It was a beautiful place, serene, peaceful, and unified. You could say it was like paradise, the Garden of Eden. In this garden, you were so connected to your surroundings and the souls around you that it felt like you were one with everything. There was no distinct border between you and anybody else. Everything and everyone was bleeding into each other, and sometimes you would wish to get away from everything, to have your own body and your own experiences. One day you asked yourself, who am I really? And how can I ever learn who I am if everything around me feels one with me? That was the day you decided to leave the garden and you got ready for your great fall. Together with the souls closest to you, you picked your family on earth, your challenges, important meetings you'd have to make, good and bad. You picked some lessons that you wanted to learn and how they would come to you. You were told that you would forget that you even made these plans and that it would be a way more challenging thing that you can imagine now. Earth is not an easy planet. You had to giggle at that, as if you would forget. You picked more challenges and promised yourself to remember. When the day of the great fall came, you felt ready and finally separated from the garden, waved it goodbye. Your last thought was that you would remember, surely. But once you reached the physical realm, you did not remember. In fact, you didn't know why you were even here or what had happened before your birth. And you wouldn't remember for a very, very long time. Fast forward to your present self. Your fall was a long time ago. You've already lived many, many lifetimes since then, never remembering anything. But wait, your memories, they are coming back, right? Buried for thousands of years, they are now starting to resurface. What you've just heard was the story of your soul. I wrote this, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, and I sent this out as a newsletter back then. And I got a lot of responses to this story. It seemed to have resonated with a lot of people when I sent it out first. And I thought this would be a beautiful introduction into today's episode of Rooted in the Cosmos. So, welcome if you're new here. This is Rooted in the Cosmos, your podcast for all things spirituality, cosmic wisdom, New Earth vision. My name is Isabel Gloria. I'm your host. And today I'm going to do another deep dive into one of my favorite spiritual concepts. I love doing deep dives into very advanced spiritual concepts and kind of break them down to make them easily digestible or to make them more easily to understand. So today I would love to dive into the concept of cosmic amnesia with you. It is something that is important for every one of us, every soul incarnating on Earth, but not everybody may be aware of something like a cosmic amnesia existing. So I really want to paint a picture for you today, give you a little introduction into what cosmic amnesia is. And because this is a large topic, I'm thinking about making this a two-part series or even multiple parts because I don't think I can cover everything today. And I really have a lot to say about this because I feel like it's so important. It's an integral part of my work to help people gain back their cosmic memory and yeah, let these memories resurface that they have all stored in their soul matrix. So you too, listening to that right now, you do have so many soul memories stored within your DNA and within your energetic body. And I just want to help you activate those. It's not like cosmic memory doesn't come back as like a cognitive thing. It doesn't come back as like a a memory that you have in your mind. It more so comes back as like a feeling. And if you're lucky, there comes some situation or some pictures or some logical information with that. So what I see in a lot of my clients is that they first get this initial feeling and a sense of a memory, like just they feel very they resonate with something they read or a concept that they learn, and they really really resonate that with that. And it's more than just being interested in it. It's like more like something that calls them home. And once they lean into that feeling and explore it for themselves, the memories actually start popping up, and they remember memories of pre-incarnation journeys, or memories of past lives, or memories of states before their human birth. Stuff like that keeps coming up. And it's something you can do like all the time. It's a task that never really stops when you're on a spiritual journey. So acquiring as much cosmic wisdom and trying to activate as much memories within you as possible is always a good way to evolve and to just grow on your journey. So today I want to tell you a little bit about your journey and your cosmic amnesia that you 100% do have, and I hope to activate something within you. If you think of yourself as a soul, your existence did not begin with this human life that you're currently living. You're an eternal being that incarnated from oneness into the physical realm to experience growth and expansion as an individual. Like I said in the story, you were part of oneness. And at one point, you were like, well, I have to experience myself. I have to experience polarity, duality. I just want to project myself forward into an individual experience. And to come here, to come to Earth, for example, was a conscious, intentional decision. And you knew that you would forget who you truly are once you come here. So there's a set of rules. If you think of um, like the rules that a soul agrees to. One of these rules, if you want to come to Earth, is that you forget everything so that your experience is genuine and authentic. Because imagine going into a game knowing the rules and knowing how it's going to end, who's going to win, like all these things. You're not really playing the game. You're just cheating your way through. Even though it's not a game, we could technically say being a physical being, being a physical human, is the game of life. And we agree to the rule of not knowing what's going to happen, or not knowing um, how we're going to live that life, and not remembering who we truly are, which is a cosmic, infinite being. What made you forget in the first place is something that I call cosmic amnesia. So when you incarnate in the physical, in the third dimensional realm, let's take Earth as an example, you forget your connection to source, and you can no longer make sense of who you truly are beyond your human self. So everything that was before your birth, whatever happened then, is inaccessible to you. It's just not, it's just as if it was never there. You're being born and you're there and you have to deal with it, but you cannot actually remember that you are such an ancient, wise, old, infinite being. And this drastic change from knowing everything and being very, very conscious to being very unconscious and not remembering anything is not just a casual thing. It's like a trauma to the soul. It's a very drastic thing that a soul can go through. And many people get very, very uncomfortable when they're being confronted with deep questions about existence, about death, about God, like all these very deep topics. They get almost like panicky. And this is not just because you may think it is because they just don't want to talk about it. They are close-minded. They just don't have an opinion and they don't want to talk about these things. But the reality often is that the difference between what their energy is like, so deep within in their soul matrix, they obviously still have these soul memories stored. So in their innermost being, they still know, like everybody still does. And their belief system, maybe they don't even believe in life after death. They don't believe in a God. They never made their mind up. They never truly thought about this. Or they, yeah, their belief system is just very different from what their core energy still knows. And this can lead people to be really defensive or almost like panicky if they're being asked for their opinion on certain things, or if they're being challenged in a conversation, or if they're being confronted with a belief system that is very different from theirs. Because their belief system is so different from the truth of who they really are, which is a ancient, infinite cosmic being, that their mind cannot process this dissonance that's happening. So if you ever talk to someone and they feel really panicky, or um, they almost get like angry and aggravated when you want to talk about deep things with them, don't be too harsh on them. It may be just the symptoms of their soul's trauma, because they've never really asked themselves these questions. They've never concerned themselves with spirituality or with the deeper questions of life. And it's not like they're super close-minded. It doesn't even have to be that. It can literally be just something that they're meant to explore for themselves first, before they are meant to be confronted or meant to have a conversation with someone who has a different belief system. I hope that this makes sense. What I'm trying to say is that there's a like huge trauma to the soul if we, or when we incarnate here on earth, and we know that, like, our soul knows that this is going to be harsh and we still want to do it, but it doesn't make it any less hard or any less challenging. And for individuals who are not as easily reconnected with their cosmic self or with their spirituality, it can be extremely hard to reconnect, because they fall under cosmic amnesia. They may have come into this life believing that they will remember, and they don't remember anything, like way less than you remember, who may have always had a sense of divinity within them, or always have had a belief system that involved something divine. So some souls just come to earth and they're completely cut off. They don't remember anything. They cannot even allow the belief system of a god or of something outside of this world being in existence. And that is like a trauma to the soul, because the truth is that they are infinite beings, and that's their core, that's their reality. And they don't live that in this lifetime. So don't be harsh on people who are just not ready to talk about these things with you. You can imagine it like this. When your soul decided to incarnate, it's not a pure decision. There's always also a kind of a learning curve attached to that, but that would go too deep. So let's say you are in the position of making that choice if you want to incarnate on planet Earth, and you can decide. You are a volunteer. So you can imagine it like this. Your soul volunteered to come to Earth, and it also agreed to fall under cosmic amnesia for very important reasons. Forgetting about your connection to source is pretty much necessary to create the illusion of separation, and therefore create duality and this individualized experience for you. This way you can learn many lessons, and you can use your free will and make your own choices and all this stuff. And cosmic amnesia provides you also with the opportunities for spiritual growth and expansion within this game of life that I've talked about. For this episode, I want to touch on the reasons why cosmic amnesia even is a thing and why it's necessary. And then in the upcoming episodes, I want to go even deeper into the topic. And I hope it's very beneficial for you and very interesting, because this is going to be the first several part series on this podcast. And yeah, it's something that's really close to my heart and something that's really important to talk about, because in the end, this is the one thing that we have to break through, not just as individuals. Like, obviously, yes, as an individual on a spiritual journey, we have to break through this cosmic amnesia. But imagine if we could collectively break through that, and we would suddenly remember that we're all connected, and that we've all lived beautiful lives, lived horrible lives. We've been the good guys, the evil guys, like we've been it all, and we are all one in this. Imagine what this would change in the world and in the collective. And I'm very aware that if that would happen suddenly, it would cause a lot of chaos and drama. That's the reason why you are working on your individual journey, why I am on my individual journey, and why millions of others are on their individual journeys, because we are meant to awaken from the inside out, you could say. Like the collective is meant to awaken one by one and not through one big traumatic event that would lead us all into like existential crisis. So that being said, I want to dive into the main reasons for cosmic amnesia. And the first one that comes to my mind is that it protects us from past life trauma. Imagine you would remember everything, like everything your soul has ever experienced in detail, and you would have all those soul memories. That would probably be very, very overwhelming. And cosmic amnesia allows you to have like a blank canvas for every new incarnation and every new lifetime that you incarnate in without carrying all the baggage from the past or parallel lives. And even though you may carry some energetic information from one life into another, like in a karmic way, the majority of information and experiences are being wiped clean in between incarnations. So you do not remember any of those, and it does not energetically impact you in that sense. Cosmic amnesia can be imagined like a veil that is being placed between you and your cosmic self. Your cosmic self is the most accessible, more knowledgeable version of you. And your cosmic self holds your soul memories and has access to all of these experiences you forget about while being in your human perspective. So if you ever need to remember something, or if there's ever something that would benefit you to remember, this memory is not gone. Like all this stored knowledge and stored experience, they're not gone. They're safe with your cosmic self. And if you ever need something, it can trickle through and you can remember that. You could say the veil can be lifted if we need to, and we can access the information consciously or remember things that are necessary or beneficial to know. They will just come to us after a spiritual awakening. It will trickle through. And knowing everything would be super overwhelming. It would be also pointless because essentially all experiences ever made within the game of life are ours to begin with. Like from the highest perspective of oneness, there is only one of us. Obviously, we are experiencing life as individuals, and it's not like everything's an illusion and we are not individuals. There is like individual consciousness that has been growing from that. But from the very, very highest perspective, if you look at that, there's only one being. So every experience ever made is made by the same divine source. So if you would remember everything, there would literally be no point in experiencing individual lives. And knowing everything would defeat the experience of separation and of individuality and of making your own choices using your free will. Like it would defeat everything because you would remember everything. The second main reason for cosmic amnesia is that it allows us to wake up within the dream. I don't know if you've ever had a lucid dream, but if you have, lucid dreaming means that you realize that you're dreaming. You consciously realize, okay, I'm dreaming right now in the middle of a dream. And this realization makes it possible for you to consciously control your dream. It's like something really cool. I love lucid dreams. And you experience the dream as if they were real, but at the same time, you know that you're dreaming. So my most intense lucid dream felt so real, I could not differentiate if it was real life, like 3D reality, or if I was dreaming. I knew I was dreaming, but it was so confusing when I woke up in the physical world again because I was questioning if I'm still dreaming because I felt literally no difference. So that's how intense lucid dreams can be. And if you ever had one, you can imagine or you can compare that to waking up to the truth of oneness in this third dimension. Once the veil has lifted for you and you realize for yourself that you are a cosmic being beyond the human and beyond the personality you currently identify with, you have the impact for realization of oneness. So it's such a huge thing if you begin to remember that and to realize that. And to remember oneness within separation is a huge expansion for your soul, and it changes everything. You suddenly become the player instead of just being the avatar. So if you think of it as a game, you become the player, you become the person behind um, the screen, if it would be a game, if that makes sense. Another good example to explain it is it's a little practice that we can do or that you can do while listening to that. So when you think of a random word, let's take, it's Christmas time, like let's take cinnamon. First thing that came up for me. So think of the word cinnamon, and you can kind of silently hear it in your mind. If you just think of it, like you can hear it in your mind, right? Cinnamon, cinnamon. You can also switch the perspective into the perceiver of that voice in your mind. So again, repeat cinnamon in your mind, but instead of focusing on the voice that you hear in your mind, focus on the one that's hearing that voice. It almost feels like there is a consciousness behind that voice that can observe or perceive the voice. And then you can even go a level deeper and realize that there is even a deeper layer of your consciousness that can observe the one that is perceiving the voice. So there are so many layers to you that you can access with just simple things like that that make you connect more with who you truly are. So you can, by just observing your thoughts, you can become closer to the being, to the soul that is connected with you, that you are on the deepest level. The last and very important main reason why cosmic amnesia is important is that it allows us to learn from our ego. Your ego is that part of yourself that identifies with the limited portion of your soul, so with the human. It identifies with your personality, with the I of your existence, the I am of your existence. It identifies with your lifetime experiences and the things you like, you dislike, with your human physical life, basically. The ego is the necessary manifestation or thought form that you have created in this physical life to have as a sense of self. This sense of self is limited to you as an individual. So there is no one else who has the same sense of self. And therefore, everything that goes beyond you as an individual being is scary for the ego. Everything that um, expands your sense of self into more than you are used to can scare your ego. And many people fear death because of that reason, because they are subconsciously scared that their sense of self will be dissolved, that they're just no longer exist. They are scared of not being themselves anymore, and this limited, small version of what they believe to be all that they are. And cosmic amnesia makes us fully identify with our ego, which again serves the purpose of experiencing separation. This is exactly why I always teach that the ego is not the enemy. So many spiritual teachers have this perception of the ego that it must die, that we cannot rely on our ego, that we don't need it, that it's something almost negative and hostile. I have the feeling for some that it's almost like an enemy. And I truly don't believe that. Like, an ego death does not mean that you no longer have an ego. It just means that you realize that you are not the ego. We need the ego. We need to have an ego to make this human experience. And if you think of a soul incarnating into this physical realm as an individual, having an ego is the whole purpose of that. Like, we only learn through having an ego and through identifying with our ego. The important thing is that we do not let ourselves be controlled by our ego, but we can learn how to transcend the ego while still identifying with it. So that is what I believe in. Our ego is not our enemy, but it is still keeping us from embracing our full potential and seeing the truth of us as multidimensional, limitless beings. So there is some aspect to it that keeps us from growing into that, but more than that, it's important to have it because it's basically the point of having this experience in the physical realm. To experience an ego death while being incarnated in the physical is a hugely expansive shift within your soul and your consciousness, because you realize, okay, I have this ego. It's like a tool. It's something that I identify with, this I personality, this name of this person that I feel like I am. But there's so much more to myself than I thought there would be. It's such an expansive shift and such an important thing. And once you're able to transcend the ego, You feel expanded as a being. You start to identify not only with that safe little fraction of your soul that you call by your name, but with all the other aspects of yourself as well. Having an ego death or experiencing an ego death while being still connected with it gives us more ease and more peace with all these topics. It just expands our consciousness so much that we have a lot more inner peace, as if we were to heavily identify only with our ego and cling to it as if it was everything that we are. And this is how a lot of people live. They believe that everything they are is just their ego and just this one little fraction of their soul that currently expresses as this one person, which is not the reality. But if they never have this realization of them being a conscious being, a conscious cosmic being, then maybe it's not meant for them in this lifetime. So don't try to ever force it upon someone. I think that's a really important thing to talk about as well. And I can do that in a separate episode as well. I think I talked about this in a very old episode. I think it's called something like spiritual loneliness, like dealing with spiritual loneliness. Is one of the first ones that I ever published. And there I talked about how I've learned the hard way and in my own way, that you cannot force someone to have a spiritual awakening, or that you cannot force someone to awaken or force their help upon them. It doesn't work like that. And it's a lesson that we need to learn as sovereign souls, that everyone has their own path and we cannot judge what the right path is. So, with all that information about cosmic amnesia, I want to give you a little preview of what's coming up next week. I want to talk about the veil that is lifting right now. So, there are different ways to break through cosmic amnesia. So, we're going to talk about that on a collective, on a personal level. And then there's also a negative side of cosmic amnesia that I want to touch on, and it goes really deep. I don't feel like it would be good to add it all into this one episode. I feel like it's more something for next week where you can easily take it all in and digest it. And I hope this was really insightful for you. I recently, just to give you a little bit of an update in my personal life or what's going on, I recently started the Cosmic Wonders mentorship. So the new round has just started and I'm so excited. As I'm recording this, I have the first call with the current round of women coming up in a few hours, and I'm so, so excited to connect with all of them. It's beautiful to see them grow and already connect with each other and stuff like that. And I'm so excited to have this first call. I hope to talk to you next week for the next part of this deep dive into cosmic amnesia. Let me know if you like this episode. You can send me a DM on Instagram. It's at Isabel Gloria, or you can send me an email to podcast@isabelgloria.com for any questions, inquiries, or topic suggestions for upcoming episodes. I always love to read them. I love to connect with you guys. And you can also check out my TikTok. I've recently become really active on there, and I really get into the spirit of TikTok. It took me a while to really get attached to it as someone who posts there, but now I love it, and I really want to keep growing on there and keep sharing valuable content. I've connected with so many beautiful souls there, and I'm not even that active for that long, so it's a very potent platform, and I love connecting with you guys there. Let me know if anyone is from TikTok who's listening to this podcast. So if you're from TikTok listening right now, please let me know. I know there is like so many people listening without ever reaching out, and I'm guilty of that myself. Like I consume so much content that is very valuable, and I never tell the content creator that this was really valuable or that this was really inspiring and all that. So it really helps us out as content creators, as coaches. We love to hear your feedback, and yeah, let me know if you're from TikTok, where you're from, and connect with me. That being said, have a beautiful, wonderful week, and talk to you next Sunday.